If you want to be successful as an architect, you are either really good or corrupt. What line of business is generally more corrupt than people realize? Towing. Companies who tow cars are shady as hell. I had my car towed from the scene of an accident, and I couldn't get an insurance estimate for 4 days because the tow company claimed they didn't have it. Then they charged the insurance company for 4 days of storage after I went to their lot myself, and took pictures of my car sitting there. Susan G. Komen and the other disease awareness charities. Most of the money donated does not reach the scientists and doctors actually researching cures and treatments. What's even worse is that the charity was started by Susan G. Komen's sister. Susan died of cancer, her sister got rich in the name of charity. I had to declare myself a butthole a couple years back. Some woman was manning an SGK desk and I began telling her what a scummy organization it was. I suddenly got some perspective and realized this is probably someone with a family member or a survivor herself who believes she's doing good and doesn't want to hear this stuff. That was not the time nor place. To add to this, the pink breast cancer ribbon isn't trademarked. Meaning anyone can slap that label on anything to make it seem charitable when it's really just shady marketing. Mortuary services. You do not need to be embalmed, you do not need an expensive casket, and they are overcharging you for everything. It's a disgusting extortion racket no one does anything about. Someone replied, worked in the funeral business, can confirm. I used to be written up on evaluations for not upselling caskets, vaults, and urns to families. Legally you don't even need an urn, if you provide the funeral home with a container they have to use it. I put someone in a coffee can once just like Donnie and the Big Lebowski. Education. Specifically the companies that publish textbooks as well as College Board, the company that has a monopoly on standardized tests in the U.S. The College Board has lobbied politicians to introduce bills that would have the government pay the standardized test fees for certain students. They also sell students' data. And it's not like students can opt out of taking the test to avoid their data being sold. Academic publishing. It's not necessarily corruption, but it's a really messed up system. Basically researchers do all the work, then they send their papers for publication, other researchers review their articles for free, and when the article is accepted the publisher asks for $40 from each reader to read one article, and 100% of the money goes back to the publisher. The researchers who wrote the paper do not get 1 cent. It's one of the most profitable industries out there, despite being completely predatory. The thing is, researchers need to publish in specific journals to get tenure or to get funded, and so they are always trying to publish in the top-rated journals instead of publishing in open science venues. Nursing homes, doesn't matter if it's the good ones. Their main goal is to get as much money out of the residents and give them bad quality care and places to live. Recently a sweet lady I knew passed away and her family was forced to go in and remove her stuff the day she died because this place were now charging them by the day. I'm not the only person in my family who's worked in a nursing home. My grandmother is currently a housekeeper in another facility, while one of my aunts and one of my mom's cousins worked as a nurse in another, and my boyfriend's mother worked in another one. All of our experiences had been bad ones, so congrats to anyone who somehow managed to find a good one and saying that not all of them are like that. Autism Speaks. If you were considering a donation to us, give it to the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network instead. Autism Speaks is less about helping autistic people, and more about helping autism mommies feel better about playing the martyr. Like, I'm pretty sure it's tougher on your autistic kid hearing how you think they're a burden, Karen. Mega churches in the US, these guys are stealing money hand over fist through the use of flashy sermons and trumped-up versions of how the Bible actually works. Not to mention the fact that most of the donations they receive help the people that own the church pay for private jets and mansions. Even if there's a catastrophe in their neighborhood they can't be bothered to send some money their way. After that last tornado in Missouri, a local mega church didn't donate a dime, meanwhile a local casino donated a large sum of money to the victims. IT help from chain companies. Pretty much just Best Buy at this point, but they gouge on their services, or at least did several years ago when I last looked. Not only do they overcharge for their services but usually will go over the estimated time for the repair. The reason for them taking so long is that there is usually only one person in the geek squad who can actually do repairs, and all the other people are more or less cashiers with maybe some minor troubleshooting experience. This is also why they send so many things out for repairs instead of doing them in store. You should just take it to a local computer repair shop instead. They will probably do it for half the price and half the time, and will probably give you some recommendations on how to prevent having issues in the future. I feel like only 5% of crypto-related businesses are ever actually legit. Like, people know there's a lot of sketchiness in that industry. I've just seen so many invest craploads in it anyway, and wind up massively screwed, for example, Mt. Gox, Quadriga, etc. Then they have basically zero recourse because crypto is decentralized and therefore incredibly difficult to trace for law enforcement. Auto mechanics. There are plenty of honest shops out there, but there are also lots of places that won't think twice about charging for unnecessary repairs, and even for work they haven't actually done. Make sure you're going to someone you know you can trust. I once saw a video where a guy got his brand new car, unplugged one wire in it, and took it to 3 auto shops. Out of the 3, only one fixed it by plugging the wire back in. The rest claimed the engine needed to be replaced or something. Hospitals. A lot of people think that health insurance are the cause of crazy medical cost. But hospitals artificially inflate the cost of all services in what is called a charge master, which is a list of the cost of all services that they do not disclose. They raise the cost of services so high so that when they make a deal with insurance, a 50% discount of something that has been made 10 times more expensive still gives them a huge profit. Justice and prison systems in the United States of America. How district attorneys, state employees, and judges are allowed to have financial interests in occupancy of the prison systems without so much as a second look is disgusting and criminal. A lot of small businesses and charities are just ways for extremely wealthy people to hide money from taxes. Like Leona Helmsley, the female Donald Trump, once said, "We don't pay taxes. Only the little people pay taxes." This is why I never donate to any charitable foundation when at Walmart or any other store. When the self-checkout asks if you want to donate etc., it's just a way for Walmart to be a charitable foundation and skip out on paying taxes. That kind of stuff needs to be illegal. Hiring temporary employees. Besides the low pay and zero respect, there is also the health insurance scams. I had an agency charge me $8,000 per year automatically for a health insurance package that only covered $5,000 after my initial upfront costs of $5,000. In short, I had to pay $13,000 just to get $5,000 worth of coverage. Which was of course denied, claiming a pre-existing condition. Being hit by a car is pre-existing, apparently. Jewelry. There's a reason as to why the big 4 audit firms shy away from auditing small jewelry shops, as most are family-run shops with unknown sources of money, improper stock records and no formal books. Besides, markup on jewelry is double the wholesale price on expensive stuff, 3 to 3.5 times on cheap stuff. Don't waste your money buying fish gravel at a mall store or a department store. Learn about what makes quality gems. Car dealerships. The buy here pay here are the worst and will try and knock off heads as much as they can. They especially prey on people with bad credit or the ill-informed. New car dealers are not much better. Bait and switches, mailers, and they will do anything to cover up mistakes on their end. I've seen many practices that are illegal, but either they don't get caught or the customer does not know the severity of the dealer's actions. Churches. Former altar boy here. All that money people give to churches makes me sick. Most of it isn't going to good works. It's going to the mega umbrella corporations, the Vatican, building Joel Osteen's mansion, and getting your pastor a new Benz. They take poor people's last few dollars and hoard it or use it to develop their brand. It's just another business. The people who pay the price for their greed is society's most vulnerable, like the elderly. A relative of mine studied architecture when she was young. Now, mid-50s, I never recalled her ever working that, so eventually I asked her about it. If you want to be successful as an architect, you are either really good or corrupt. United Way. Use business leaders to shake down their employees for donations. Most employees would rather just give directly to their favorite charity but are guilted or forced into giving to United Way. Of course, my local United Way puts minorities in high positions so big corporations can feel they are doing social good, but the CEO and others at United Way are making more than $300,000. I used to sell textbooks for 10 years. First, don't buy the book and code. 90% of codes have the digital textbook on it. Engaged titles can be the exceptions, they may be code only. Second, never buy the new edition. Buy the custom, or a few editions older if you can find it online, Facebook, Craigslist, OfferUp, Books Counter, then Chegg, Amazon, Best deals are found from people just getting out of the class. P.S. They only move around pictures, graphs, but word for word that chapter will read the same. Trace. The bookstore marks up the books by at least 45%, 20% to make a profit, 25% to pay back the school. I tried taking over a Barnes & Noble on-campus bookstore, but their contract with the school sucks. Finally, for this post, if you have to get the book, rent unless it's for like account 1 and 2, bio 1 and 2, etc. Check the library, they keep a copy of all textbooks. Just ask your teacher if they have an extra copy. There's a ton more, but we're talking about textbooks and I've already said too much. I'll never be cool again. Financial advisors anywhere really, doesn't matter if it's from an institution or a private firm. The large majority of them are only out there to get commissions and to protect their own bottom line. Was in that world for a while, roughly 5 years, and it is a lot scummier once you realize that it's common in the industry to be 100% commission. From my personal experience working at one of the largest firms in the world, and they also tell you to tout that as a form of trust, I had seen 13 different advisors commit fraud in a span of about 3 years. Ranging from something small like missing a disclosure form or skipping over some small but important details, such as surrender charges, to something as bad as forging signatures to start a sale in order to meet quarter-end bonuses. There's also some really bad ones, such as straight-up lying to clients, using the word guaranteed returns, and other things that they ended up being caught with. All of these were quietly swept under the rug. You can go on BrokerCheck to see if they have any reports. But honestly, you only get reported for doing really bad stuff, and if the client decides to completely follow through with the reporting. Which most don't. And I can tell you, from that search, that those 13 advisors that I listed have nothing on their FINRA report. So they look clean, but I would think that they are still doing the shady things today as they were in the past. Regardless, not all of the industry is bad. But anything that relies on a person to rely on literally making a sale, or going home with nothing to eat or have a roof over their head, and people will easily bend the rules so that they can live. Especially since most of these firms take roughly 50 to 60% of the commissions. So even if you make a big 3K sale, you're only seeing half of it. And from start to finish in a pipeline takes about a month at the very minimum. And that's if they agree to invest with you on the first meeting, because transferring money from institutions takes around 2 to 3 weeks. Cosmetic industry. Putting stuff like alcohols in moisturizers to deliberately dry you out so that you buy more moisturizer. Chapstick is also notorious for this, hence why I switched to Burt's Bees and immediately noticed a difference. Slapping labels like anti-aging on things that literally age you. So messed up. HR. Human resources. They need to treat people like resource objects in order to do their job. HR isn't about resourcing humans, it's about humans as a resource. Learned that the hard way myself. HR is there to limit the employer's liability, not protect and help the employees. If limiting the liability means to screw you over, then bend over and spread 'em. Education, more specifically colleges in the US. The college experience is basically a marketing tool universities use to lure in kids who don't understand the severity of $60,000 or more of debt. Most universities don't even put a majority of their funding into education-related things. Universities will pour money into non-essentials like huge rec centers, nice architecture and landscaping, sport complexes, etc. Just so their school attracts more students than the next, never mind the quality of the education. There's a Netflix documentary called The Hunting Ground about how major universities were accused of brushing several sexual assault cases under the rug because if the attacker were to gain publicity, the school might gain a bad reputation, among other BS, money-related reasons. Save your money, go to community college first. Honestly, the whole online influencer is becoming such a problem because it targets youth to join in on it. What's the end game with that? Age is a factor. Kinda hard to be that hot blonde when your wrinkles are hitting you like a crazy person and the arthritis kicks in. It's worst for the Twitch and YouTubers because most of those cats are either going to need some serious work on their eyes or deal with carpal tunnel. Cell phone sales. I worked in that for a few years. The company had to forge signatures if you forgot to get something signed. Helping the customer with discounting products so they fit in a bundle so they can add it to their contract or financing plan cost them more money in the long run and lined our pockets. Every deal is a scam because of all the hidden fees. They can be waived, but they won't unless you throw a fit. Coding bootcamps. They promise folks they can become software engineers in 12 weeks and charge anywhere from 10 to 20K. There's a dark side to them not many folks know about, that involves manipulation of job placement numbers and just overall operation. Sad. Modeling. A lot of hidden prostitution involved for both male and female models in order to secure better job offers, including the exploitation of young girls, and not to mention the alarming rate of eating disorder in the industry. Car sales. I worked for a Merc dealership briefly and everyone is trained to lie and mislead. It's literally in the training program. Every department has their own tricks and the car salesman will say and do anything to get you to buy. The irony is most people think they're good car salesmen. What goes on behind the scenes would make you sick. Volunteer tourism. It's basically a reason for people to feel good about themselves and give themselves a pat on the back. It doesn't actually help the people they claim to. Sometimes those buildings that are meant to be for the less fortunate are torn down in preparation for the next group of affluent people. Babies you are cuddling in orphanages are sometimes taken from their parents to fill spots and are more likely to be abused. Basically any money that you pay to do these things do not end up in the right hands. Not to mention that giving a handout is not sustainable. Give a man a fish versus teach a man to fish type deal. Banking. They don't store your money. They loan your money. Then they invest it on the stock market. If they win, they keep the profit. If they lose the money, you and everybody else chip in from tax budget and pay up. So they always win, you always lose, given enough time. A very good friend of mine is a car mechanic, and let me tell you, most garages are corrupt businesses. They perform unnecessary oil changes, swap parts that don't need to be swapped, damage things on purpose, so you will show up again shortly after, and overcharge people for deleting errors that cause the engine light to go off, but are not really critical. He said you are better off if you have an old car where the service history does not matter anymore. Try to fix as much as you can yourself, with the help of the internet and YouTube videos. Or have a mechanic that is trustworthy and rather give him a tip for keeping the costs low. Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. If you're new here and like these videos, you might want to consider to subscribe. Anyway, I don't know about you, but I find hearing these reports very frustrating. Please let me know what you do as a job, and also tell us if it is an honest industry or another corrupt one.